Welcome to Inspiring Histories, where ancient secrets and biblical mysteries come to life. What if the story of the Exodus isn't complete? What if the name of the Pharaoh, Moses' greatest adversary, was deliberately erased? Could ancient Egyptian records hold the truth that has been concealed for millennia? For thousands of years, the Exodus has been one of the most significant events in biblical history. Yet, curiously, the Pharaoh's name is never mentioned. This is unusual, considering that biblical texts frequently identify kings and rulers by name. But in this case, nothing. Was his name erased on purpose? Could the biblical authors have intentionally omitted it? Or is there a deeper mystery behind his disappearance from the historical record? Ancient Egyptian inscriptions, some carved in stone, speak of unexplained disasters, plagues, and a sudden collapse of power. Could these be linked to the 10 plagues of Egypt? Are we looking at real historical evidence of the Exodus? Today, we uncover one of history's greatest enigmas. Who was the real Pharaoh of the Exodus, and what are they hiding from us? For centuries, scholars, theologians, and archaeologists have debated the identity of the Pharaoh of the Exodus. The book of Exodus tells the dramatic story of Moses confronting a powerful ruler, demanding that he let my people go. Yet, unlike other biblical narratives where kings are named, Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon, Sennacherib of Assyria, or Cyrus of Persia, the Pharaoh of the Exodus remains nameless. This omission has led to one of the most perplexing mysteries in biblical history. If this event was so significant, why wouldn't the Bible record the name of the king who opposed Moses? Was his identity intentionally concealed, or was he erased from history for a reason? On the Egyptian side, things get even stranger. While the grand temples and monuments of Egypt proudly document their victories and achievements, there are no direct records of a catastrophic event like the Exodus. No pharaoh is recorded as having lost a massive slave population, endured 10 plagues, or suffered a humiliating defeat at the hands of a Hebrew prophet. But does that mean it didn't happen? Or is the evidence hiding in plain sight, buried within cryptic Egyptian texts and overlooked historical anomalies? To find answers, we must dig deeper into the historical timeline, cross-referencing biblical chronology with Egyptian history. Some scholars propose two main candidates for the Pharaoh of the Exodus: Ramses II, the Great, the mighty builder pharaoh, ruling during Egypt's Golden Age. Thutmose III or Amenhotep II, rulers who match the biblical timeline more closely but remain controversial choices. But which one truly fits the Exodus story? And why do certain Egyptian records hint at a mysterious disaster that nearly collapsed the empire? The deeper we go, the more the pieces of this puzzle begin to align, or do they? The absence of Pharaoh's name in the biblical text is no coincidence. Some scholars argue that the Hebrews deliberately omitted his name as an act of defiance, erasing him from history just as he had tried to erase them through slavery. Others suggest a more cryptic reason. Perhaps his identity was too controversial, or maybe even dangerous, to record. But here's where things get even more intriguing. Ancient Egyptian records are notorious for omitting embarrassing defeats. Pharaohs often erased or rewrote history to glorify their reign. The Egyptians never documented failures, only victories. If an event as catastrophic as the Exodus occurred, it's entirely plausible that any reference to it was deliberately erased to maintain the illusion of Egyptian supremacy. And yet, hidden in Egyptian texts, there are clues. The Apur Papyrus, an ancient Egyptian text, describes chaos in the land. The river is blood. The land is in great distress. The slaves have become the masters. This eerily resembles the biblical account of the 10 plagues. In the Tempest Stela of Amos-I, the text speaks of a great storm and disasters that devastated Egypt, leading to the mysterious decline of a pharaoh's rule. Certain Egyptian tombs and records mysteriously stop mid-sentence, as if something sudden and catastrophic wiped out an entire ruling dynasty. Could these cryptic texts be describing the real Exodus? Is this the hidden evidence that modern scholars have overlooked or even suppressed? And if so, who was the pharaoh that suffered this devastating downfall? As we move forward, the pieces of this historical puzzle become even more unsettling. For centuries, historians and theologians have debated which pharaoh ruled Egypt during the Exodus. If we could identify him, we might finally unlock the truth behind one of history's greatest enigmas. But here's the problem: Egyptian timelines and biblical chronology don't always align. The traditional dating of the Exodus, around the 13th or 15th century BCE, falls into two main competing theories. Each has its own candidate for the pharaoh who defied Moses. Theory 1, Ramses II, the great builder pharaoh. Many scholars believe Ramses II, 1279 to 1213 BCE, was the infamous pharaoh of the Exodus. There are reasons why this theory is popular. The Bible mentions the Israelites building the city of Pyramos, which was named after him. He was a powerful ruler with vast armies and monumental achievements. Some believe the famous Merneptah stele, erected by his son, contains the earliest reference to Israel in Egyptian records. But there's a problem. Ramses II ruled Egypt for 66 years and died peacefully. There is no evidence of a catastrophic downfall or sudden collapse during his reign. If the Exodus truly happened, wouldn't there be some record of it? Theory 2, Thutmose III or Amenhotep II, the overlooked pharaohs. Other scholars argue that the Exodus must have happened earlier, around the 15th century BCE. If that's the case, then Ramses II doesn't fit. Instead, two other pharaohs emerge as potential candidates: Thutmose III, 1479 to 1425 BCE, a powerful warrior pharaoh, but oddly, his mummy has never been found. Could he have perished in the Red Sea? Amenhotep II, 1427 to 1401 BCE, some claim that records from his reign show unusual gaps, and Egyptian power seemed to decline suddenly after him. But here's where things get even more mysterious. Several ancient Egyptian inscriptions mention a great disaster striking Egypt, a period of sudden turmoil where the empire weakened unexpectedly. Some even suggest that a mass departure of slaves took place, though never explicitly called the Exodus. Could one of these rulers have been the true pharaoh of the Exodus? Did Egyptian scribes erase the truth to protect the legacy of their kings? Or is there a name, buried somewhere in the sands of Egypt, that we have yet to uncover? One thing is certain: whoever he was, his fate was unlike any other pharaoh in history. If the Exodus was a real historical event, and if a powerful pharaoh truly fell because of it, then why is there no explicit mention of it in Egyptian records? The answer may lie in the way ancient Egypt recorded history. Unlike biblical scribes, who documented both triumphs and failures, Egyptian historians operated under a strict rule: never record a pharaoh's defeat. In their eyes, a ruler was a god on earth, and acknowledging his downfall would be unthinkable. But despite this, traces of the Exodus may have survived, hidden within cryptic Egyptian texts and ignored by mainstream scholars. The Epure Papyrus, a chilling parallel to the plagues, an ancient Egyptian document, describes a sudden collapse of Egypt, eerily mirroring the biblical plagues. The river is blood. There is wailing throughout the land. The slaves have fled Egypt. Could this be an Egyptian account of the events described in the Book of Exodus? The similarities are startling, yet traditional historians dismiss it, claiming it refers to other internal disasters. But what if it doesn't? The almost Tempest Stela, a forgotten disaster. Another mysterious text, known as the Tempest Stela, describes a devastating storm, floods, and chaos striking Egypt during the reign of Pharaoh Ahmose. Scholars debate its meaning, but some believe it could be an indirect reference to the calamities of the Exodus. The mysterious Asiatics in Egyptian records. Egyptian texts often refer to a group called the Asiatics, foreigners living in Egypt who were suddenly expelled in large numbers. Mainstream historians argue that this refers to the Hyksos, a Semitic people who ruled parts of Egypt before being driven out. But others suggest that this could be an Egyptian account of the Hebrews' departure. Could these fragments of text be the last surviving records of the real Exodus? Was the name of the pharaoh deliberately erased not just by biblical scribes, but by the Egyptians themselves? If the Exodus truly happened, its consequences would have been devastating for Egypt and transformative for the Hebrews. But how did this event shape history, and why does it still hold such profound significance today? Egypt's sudden decline, a kingdom in crisis. For centuries, Egypt was the dominant superpower of the ancient world. Its pharaohs ruled with absolute authority, controlling vast armies, towering monuments, and an endless supply of labor. But then, something changed. Shortly after the estimated time of the Exodus, Egyptian power began to wane. Records show a sudden economic decline, with fewer grand building projects. Several pharaohs after this period mysteriously lost control, struggling to maintain dominance over their own land. Egyptian religious shifts occurred, with later rulers seemingly trying to restore balance after a period of chaos. Could this be the result of a devastating loss of manpower, military defeat, and the collapse of confidence in Pharaoh's divine authority? For the Hebrews, the Exodus wasn't just an escape, it was the birth of their identity as a nation. It marked the transition from slavery to freedom, shaping their laws, traditions, and faith. It established Moses as a prophetic leader, one whose teachings would define Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. It became a universal symbol of liberation, inspiring countless movements throughout history. But what if the Exodus wasn't just a historical event, but a cosmic battle between divine forces? The spiritual war. Was the Exodus more than just politics? Some ancient texts suggest that the battle between Moses and Pharaoh wasn't just a human struggle, it was a clash between the God of Israel and the gods of Egypt. Each of the 10 plagues is believed to have targeted a specific Egyptian deity, systematically proving the power of Yahweh over Egypt's gods. The Nile turning to blood defied Hapi, the river god. The plague of darkness humiliated Ra, the sun god. The death of the firstborn struck at Pharaoh himself, who was considered a living god. Was this a calculated spiritual assault designed to dismantle Egyptian religious authority? Could this be why the Pharaoh of the Exodus, whoever he was erased from history, his reign a shameful reminder of his God's failure? And if this was truly a divine confrontation, does its impact still linger in our world today? For millennia, the identity of the Pharaoh of the Exodus has remained one of history's greatest unsolved mysteries. Was he Ramses II, the mighty builder king, whose empire stood unshaken in the historical record? Was it Thutmose III or Amenhotep II, whose timelines match the biblical account but whose downfall remains obscured in the sands of time? Or is the truth something even more unsettling, a name deliberately erased, a ruler whose defeat was too shameful to record? Egyptian texts speak of great disasters, mass departures, and divine battles, yet never directly mention the Exodus. But perhaps that is the greatest clue of all. The lack of evidence is, in itself, evidence of something deliberately hidden. Could it be that somewhere, buried in an undiscovered Egyptian scroll, the final proof awaits, ready to rewrite history as we know it? We may never know the full truth. But one thing is certain: the story of the Exodus continues to shape our world, fueling debates, discoveries, and mysteries that refuse to be silenced. What do you think? Was the Pharaoh's name erased to cover up a catastrophic defeat? Or is history hiding a secret that humanity is not yet ready to uncover? Drop your theories in the comments below. And if you're fascinated by ancient mysteries and forbidden history, make sure to like, subscribe, and stay tuned, because the truth is always closer than we think.